our finger over the intro button. And we give the monkey bot a good pat. Yes, because she's a good dog. She's a good dog, oh yes. Okay. Hey everyone. Gotta give it a minute so that those folks who are stuck watching ads or whatever can enjoy what we all enjoy so much, which is me hitting the intro and then remembering to turn it off at the end. Remember to turn it off at the end. Watch this. I'm going to turn it off at the end. Boom. Woohoo! And I'm turning it off. Ha ha! Suckers. You're going to get me this week. This week's going to be no double intros. I promise. Okay, it's Monday. It is the last day of February. There's a full-on war raging in Ukraine. Citadel just released their 13 Fs and revealed they've got $65 billion in shares that they sold and never gave to anyone. Their liabilities are twice what they were last year. 3 or 4 times what they were the year before, in 2019. There's a giant gaping hole of obligation that they cannot fill. So that's happening. Tomorrow is AMC's financials at 4 p.m. Central, I believe. So that'd be 5 on the East Coast. And what else? Putin yesterday threatened to nuke the entire world, so we've got that to look forward to. Woo! Yay! That's all I got at the top of the show here. So, you folks, lay it on me. What's going on? What's happening? Let's jump in here. AK Jolly, AK Laji. Houston, tell me some good news. Is there good news? I don't know if I read any good news. Other than the fact that Citadel is so over-leveraged that they cannot survive. Okay. Paratarian, also, if you could choose a single to wear, if not when, where is, if shall, to can. Always wise words from Paratarian. Never fails. Never fails to deliver. Okay. Jason Blackwell, Houston, are you over or under MMTLP divvy at $20? My gut says over $20. I think they can get billions for that land in Texas right now, especially with oil just rocketing. We're well over $100 per barrel. That's $50 a barrel in profit per barrel sucked out of the ground. I think they are going to do all right on the sale of that land if and when that happens. I'd rather get the dividend and not have to worry about owning an oil stock. I don't care about that. I want the dividends so I can take that money, dump into GME, and let it ride. Okay. Paratarian Houston, if you could choose between using a deep dive suit to walk a large portion of the Marianas Trench or be the first to explore Martian cave systems, I'm baked, so stoner thoughts incoming. We've sent humans down the Marianas Trench, haven't we? I thought we did in the 60s. We made some crazy suits. Humans dive Marianas Trench. Yeah, 1960s. So, no one's gonna care if there's no being a living legend if I am the second person to walk around the Marianas Trench. Even though Mars is a stupid place to go, I'd have to go with Mars because at least if I die, I'll live in infamy. It'll be everyone will know my name. They'll be like, man, that guy died on Mars for no reason whatsoever. That'll be something. Yeah. Barf Boo, meant to be prepared for $2. That way, super happy with anything above it. Also means I'm still making money if I buy now. Yeah, that's one way to look at it. I originally bought in Torchlight at 87 cents. And I was just hoping for a $2 dividend. But I know now it's going to be much, much more than that because back then they were thinking $2 dividend. And the oil prices have just rocketed since then. Jason Blackwell, Houston, when you sip the straw from your glass, your pointer finger always lifts up from the lid. Is there some sort of valve up there? Just curious, not a dark away. Actually, what I'm trying to do is hold the straw still, because I am absolutely terrified that this thing is going to bop on the bottom someday and chip a piece of glass in there, and I'm going to suck it up. So when I drink, I try to keep the straw as still as possible, and that way it doesn't bonk around as much, terrifying me that I'm going to like cut my insides with a sharp piece of glass straw. That's the entire reason behind it. Okay, Space Monkey, buy now. I'm old school torch. You need at least $5 to break even after the reverse split. Ooh. Jason Blackwell, hi everyone, support your favorite streamer and join Houston's Patreon. Yes, my Patreon, I'm not particularly active with the Patreon, although I do appreciate it. People subscribe to it. It allows me to do these shows much more easily. I do have plans someday, if Ethereum gets cheap, to shower everyone who joins my Patreon with Problemo coins. But Ethereum still hasn't released 2.0, and it's really just chapping my hide right now. Oh, Justin Head's got super chat. Would a cyber attack on a NATO member trigger Article 5? Prayers for Eastern Europe. I mean, Russia has done dozens, hundreds of cyber attacks on NATO members, including the United States. They hacked every single solitary voter system on all 50 states in 2016. There's a hack going on right now that has locked up and frozen the largest logistics company in the entire United States, like the company that runs all the ports in the United States. Their computer systems are useless and they can't move a lot of materials. So there's active hacks going on all the time, and has not triggered Article 5. So I don't think that would trigger Article 5. It probably should, but it hasn't so far. So cyber attacks are attacks on sovereign nations, but they're just so, I don't know, they're so hard for people to feel tangible about that they don't do anything about it. Now, maybe if they knock out water systems or, flood dams or, shut down nuclear power plants and they get to that range, that may push things above this is just a pain in the ass to, this is actually going to put lives at risk stage, and that might count. Right now, there's a whole bunch of hacker collectives that are just attacking Russian and Belarusian computer systems, and they are wiping out websites. They're shutting down trains. They're doing all sorts of things. A Belarusian hacker group shut down the train system in Belarus. Like trains stopped on the tracks yesterday. So there's some hefty, NGO action going on in Ukraine in that regard. It's pretty interesting. Very interesting. I mean, all I've been able to do is just doom scroll. I am not a functional member of society at the moment. I am just doom scrolling and wishing that my bug out vehicle had an engine that worked. Go live in the mountains, monkey butt. Okay. Resident Flea, Houston, how was your mother's operation? She has not had it yet. She gets it next Monday on the 7th. So that's the week that I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do too many shows. I have no idea. I may be stuck just helping my mom out for that week. So we'll see. We'll see how much I can get done. Pankaj Kumar, Houston. Postmo asks, many of us are not going to be doing any job. How does one set good health insurance without job? Sorry for the silly question. I always have insurance via my employer, so please educate. You got to go out into the market and seek it out yourself. Or retire to a nation that has universal. I swear I have a eyelash just poking me in the eye, and it's just sorry. It is driving me off the wall right now. And you know how it is. Your entire body is designed like a friggin' spare parts junkyard machine. But yes, or move to a country that has universal health care, which, probably won't be that terrible. But otherwise, you have to go to private market. There are weird collectives for self-employed people to get cheaper insurance. So if you maybe join one of those, be like, hey, I'm retired. I'm self-employed via my annuities for my investments. That might be how I have to do it. Or you know, just be like, I'm unemployed. Give me Medicaid. I don't know. I don't know how you qualify for that. Daphne, Houston, I'm in Salt Lake City. Can't be here for the live, but have a question. What would the difference between being a member of EU and being part of NATO? What are the pluses and minuses? Well, being a member of the EU is being part of the basically the open borders region of the EU. They generally use a common currency, although there are a couple of EU members that stick to their own currency. And they usually have set goals for financial performance, infrastructure investment, freedom index levels, things like that. NATO itself, NATO is a military organization and not like a civilian organization like the EU is. NATO is a military collective that's prime directive is attack on one is attack on all. So if Ukraine had been a member of NATO and Russia had invaded, then the prime directive would trigger, and every single solitary nation that's a member of NATO will be required by law to attack the enemy. That's what triggered the NATO action in Afghanistan after the 9/11 attacks. It was ruled that because Afghanistan harbored Al-Qaeda and the United States was attacked, then everyone acted as though they had been attacked, and they all went to Afghanistan. It was a clusterfuck, but that's what triggered it. Although NATO has taken military action when their neighbors are threatened, so like in the 90s and early 2000s. Gosh, what is this thing? Just stabbed me in the eye. Is it on my glasses? What the hell? Sorry, just absolutely. Why are eyeballs such a pain? Where are you? Why are you? Oh wait, nope. Is that it? That might have been it. Okay. But so when they went into the Balkans and basically went in to try and put a stop to the genocide that was happening from all sides, the Balkans were just a mess. So under Tito, he unified Slavia, and people from different ethnicities moved around from region to region because that's what you do under 80 years of one rule of one party. And when it broke up, all of a sudden, all these ethnic differences that have been basically suppressed by the fact that everyone hated Tito, all of a sudden, we're now like, oh, Tito's gone. Yugoslavia is now no longer under the iron fist of one ruling party. I can hate you now. And that they just went bonkers with death squads and genocide and all sorts of things. And the humanitarian crisis that resulted was spilling over into NATO states. And so NATO was like, you know what? We got to put a clamp on this. There's no one else in the world right now who can deal with this thing. Russia was still coming out of the fall and, the beginning of their kleptocracy. So they couldn't deal with it. And so NATO went in and just blew everything to shit, basically, until everyone stopped. Even then, they had to put boots on the ground, and then the UN peacekeepers came in, so you had blue helmets in there. It was brutal. And now, because they all want to join NATO and they all want to join the EU, because the EU is much better economically than being on their own with their own currencies, everyone's trying to be on their best behavior. Serbia, Kosovo, Albania, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Croatia, Montenegro, they're all just trying to be on their best behavior and not fuck up and lose out on their ability to be members of the EU or NATO. So there you go. BTW brand. Crypto is up a good bit. It started skyrocketing. I'm wondering if it's because Russians are taking all their rubles and buying as much crypto as possible. So the buy pressure right now is just going bonkers as an entire nation tries to get out of their own currency. Yeah, Russians hiding money? Definitely. If they want to get money out before there's sanctions, they want to put that stuff into a hardware wallet, get on their pleasure boat and sail across the Atlantic or whatever, because Cyprus said they're going to seize accounts. Switzerland says they're going to seize accounts. The United States says they're going to seize accounts. Who else? There's one other one that recently said that they would jump on that bandwagon. Was it Malta? I don't know. I'm waiting for Panama and the Caymans and British Virgin Islands and Bahamas, these other offshore sites, to say that, yeah, we're going to seize what you have. About 17% of Russia's central bank holdings are in China. The rest are spread around the world or in Russia itself. Stuff that's in Russia itself, it's going to be hard for them to move it around anywhere except to see which countries are still hooked up to the Russian banking system. There's Turkey, India, China. Is there anyone else? I can't remember. Maybe like Kazakhstan or something. There is a banking system outside of SWIFT that there's these nations hooked up to. But the way Russian troll farm people are currently trolling India might cut that cord too. So who knows? Who knows where that's going to go? Okay. Oh, shoot. Man, Jordan did its thing. Did its thing again. Okay. That was with Sam. Sam Singh. Houston, I know you can answer this. I don't understand how hedge funds and market makers were successfully able to hide true short interest in GME. Why Federal has not done anything about it? Why the Feds haven't done anything about it? There's a great DD someone sent me today that kind of points out that they use options. So generally, if you are going to be short on something, you might get call options and sell puts just so that you can cover your bases in case things go haywire. But they're so far behind that they're facing forced buybacks. So what they do is they buy out of the money puts and calls that will never trigger for super cheap, for a penny or whatever. Think if a stock's trading $100 and you buy 50-cent puts, right? You sell 50-cent puts, whatever. You are basically saying, this is never going to reach that price. I am dumping, thousands of dollars into this investment rather than billions or trillions. And what you can do is you can use that as the reg show. I've identified where shares are. And so you say, hey, I've identified that this option house has 50 million shares because they sold me $50 million in puts or whatever. And you can then write that down, and it will automatically take those FTDs that were going to expire and force you to buy and just push them off into infinity, essentially, until those puts expire and you got to do it all over again. So it's a very weird system, and that's one of the ways they're getting around it. Another way is their equity swaps and their debt swaps. So you've got this huge liability. Someone else has a giant liability. They're both coming due. You swap them. You trade them with each other. And it reassigns ownership of those liabilities. And all of a sudden the clock sets again. So that's another way to do it. It's a very dumb loophole that should be closed by the SEC. And they've not managed to do it yet. But I'm hoping that they eventually do. Yeah. That's how they get away with it. And the market makers, they've got superpower where they can let FTDs go and no one can force them to do shit until they've got capital requirement problems. So unless for some reason their cash flow dries up, they aren't going to be facing any margin calls or liquidations or whatsoever. It's a dumb system, and we should not be giving superpowers to bad actors like that because, as we've seen, Citadel is an organized crime outfit. Okay. Raider Bow, thanks for streaming, Houston. Appreciate the time and effort. Oh, thank you, Raider Bow. Dustin W. Evening, Houston. If a bomb was dropped on top of Yellowstone, could it trigger the volcano? Probably not. I'd say probably not. I mean, if you had a big enough bomb, like one of those, 300 megaton Tsar bombs or whatever, that might be able to, if it was in the ground, do enough damage to open up fissures and trigger an eruption. But just the run-of-the-mill one, it'll knock down trees and knock down some rocks and stuff like that. But I don't think it would be enough. The amount of power that needs to be released is absolutely insane. And if the pressure of oh, hey, buddy. If the pressure of, 3,000 cubic kilometers of magma isn't enough to, like, break that sucker open, then I don't think a bomb that's in the kilotons range would be able to do it either. Okay. So many happy birthdays. So many happy birthdays. Fudge your teats off. Win Moon. Why bad guys bad? Why good guys bad? Win jail cell. Soon. I don't know. People unchecked can be assholes. That's one thing for sure. My friend Andy was tweeting. He's like, I hate that I can predict these things, these like terrible events in history so well. It's just again and again and again. I just keep getting right. And I was like, it's because assholes are predictable. Once you know how an asshole behaves, then you've figured out like every other asshole. You know, a guy like Putin is so predictable. He is so easy. He's an open book. Why? Because he's isolated. He has imprisoned or killed every single solitary person who slighted him, told him no, said that was a bad idea, and now he's alone with nothing but yes men who are terrified of him. Because they know if they get on his bad side and don't like thread the needle for him perfectly, that they're off in Siberia or they've got polonium in their coffee or whatever. So now that he doesn't have any checks and balances for people like, hey, you know what? When you do a blitzkrieg, you need to have like multiple phases in a blitzkrieg when you enter a nation. You can't just like power in until they run out of fuel because then they die. You need to have a second group that comes in and takes care of any stragglers that got left behind, and we can resupply those in the front. You need a third group to come in and back those guys up with more supplies. And they didn't do it. Putin thought that they'd just be able to drive straight to Kiev and just be they would just walk all over them. The problem is that had he done that in 2014, he could have done it easily. There were issues where some of the weapons and ammunition that the Ukrainians had were 25 or more years old, like duds, bullets that wouldn't fire, rockets that wouldn't launch, warheads that wouldn't penetrate, and so they're getting their asses kicked in eastern Ukraine because their weapons didn't work. Well, what'd they learn? They learned they needed to change their training system. So they started doing regular drafts, 60,000 men at a time, and they would take them, put them on the front line. They'd learn how to fight, learn how to do whatever, and then they would send them off back to their towns where they would organize local militias. Over 400,000 Ukrainians have gone through the system so far. On top of that, they started going out and seeking new weapons. And boy, howdy, did they get a bunch of javelins and LMAs, what those are? Anti-tank weapons, jets, drones, small arms, all sorts of things that they didn't have before. And not only that, but now they've got battle-tested people in every single solitary town throughout the Ukraine, and now they got all the weapons they need. And on the opposite side, the Russians, one of their pride and joys is the Navy. Well, if you're spending a bunch of money on a Navy and not a bunch of money on your land forces, then your land forces lose out. And that's one of the reasons why the dilapidated equipment the Russians have is just not working out. It's old. It's not modern. It's not fuel efficient. They chose to invade at a terrible time of year when the ground wasn't frozen. It's just muddy. So they're stuck on these highways, just getting absolutely strafed by drones and Su-25s and all these jets. It's a giant blunder. And, most of the Russian military are conscripts, and the training isn't that great. They don't want to be there. They're mostly, from the underclass, and there was a poll done that asked why you joined the Russian military, and most of the young men said for an apartment because otherwise they couldn't afford one. And in-laws, thank you, in-laws. These guys, they don't want to fight their brothers. They don't want to be in war. They just want an apartment. There's not much nationalism behind their joining. A lot of them were lied to and told they was going to be on a training mission and then beaten into heading out. It's very interesting to see what is sort of happening with the Russian forces. They thought they were this giant who could just squash anyone, but they only fight much smaller forces until now. They would go to Georgia or Chechnya or Syria, and they're fighting people that didn't have organized weapons. They didn't have air forces, and now they're kind of like, oh shit, these guys have fighter jets and drones and satellite images and allies and resupplies and trained forces, and we pissed them off. It's pretty crazy, man. It's pretty crazy at the moment. Okay. Shed Tremendous by Shattered Dreams. Okay. Oh, people are still trying to guess when my birthday is. All right. We're 3 days without intro accident. There was intro accident Friday, so I guess Saturday, Sunday. Oh, we were 3 days. Gotta count the days I didn't do a show. Okay. All right. David Dumas, Houston. What do you think specifically about AMC and earnings tomorrow? I think AMC is going to have fantastic reports for Q4. They had some big movie releases. I think they made a lot more money, especially over Q4 in 2020. So it's going to look as huge growth. And I think everyone's going to jump on board and be excited about it, which means that the short hedge funds are going to crush it as hard as they possibly can. They want to suppress that price because of the good news. That group, I think, has something going for them in that Q1 of this year is going to be garbage. Half of the quarter is spent with a gigantic COVID outbreak, lots of people getting sick and infected, work slowdowns, all sorts of stuff like that. So if they can suppress that price to the results that would come out in, say, May for Q1, they might do themselves some good. But I think the earnings are going to be fantastic for AMC tomorrow. And I think everyone's going to be like, woohoo! And then they're going to see the price just get crushed via the dark pools. Absolutely crushed. Oh, I know what you want. You want your blanket. Okay. Gotta get off it first, though. Gotta get off it. Okay. Ready? There you go. Blop. Oh, there's a nose sticking out. Okay. All right. Where was that question? That was David Dumas. Okay. Aaron Salentine, what you think of the price of MMTLP will be with the price of oil going up? Like the dividend, you mean? I think the shares are purposely kind of suppressed right now because Citadel and Knight need to get them as cheap as they possibly can, because they know that if that dividend is significant dollars, they got to delete as many of the synthetics that were generated from all the Torchlight naked shorts they had, and they're going to be screwed. So that's the entire reason why Citadel and Knight started, where the market makers just started trading those shares, because they need to delete those synthetics, or at least have a bunch of that stuff in their pocket, so when the dividend comes, they can at least take that money and give it to the other nakeds that are still out there. Yeah. Okay. Oh, hey, I'm 30 minutes behind the chat already. I just finally got to like the 7 o'clock chats. Okay. G Vegas. Gonna be asleep. But, oh, there was something I was supposed to read about half an hour in, so I might as well read it now because I was told to read it. I was half an hour in. Let's see here. Dr. Baker has granted me a pass for Tuesday. There you go. That's what I need to say. So Dr. Baker granted me a pass for Tuesday. Those of you who know what that means, take note. All right. Riva Swine. At least metamaterials is going green finally. Yeah. All right. So we are. Bruno Bars, what do you think of PayPal or similar stocks in the next few months? The earnings were pretty good. Cash App earnings, or Cube or whatever, Square Cash and Cash App, and those guys all have. They were fantastic, and the stock price went up because people are using them a ton. I use them. You know, if roommates need to pay me rent, I need to pay landlord rent. That's what I use. It's easy. Just go boop, bop, boop, send, done. So they're so convenient, so wonderfully convenient, and it really, you know, it really has slowed down, or sorry, I should say not slowed down, sped up the time people spend at a restaurant haggling. Oh, you had the milkshake, he had 3 beers, they're going to split this up. One person goes, I'll just fucking pay it. And then you owe me $5, you owe me 10, you owe me 15 or whatever. And it's like, done. There's no more like fighting over the check because someone just rolls their eyes and then sends out bills to their friends. It seems to be a pretty streamlined system right now. Okay. Enrich Me Houston, did you read Tobit's new post on Reddit? No, I have not read that one. Send it to me. That guy doesn't like me very much, but that's okay. I think he's a fine dude. He just got weirdly mad at me. And started just going bonkers. I don't know what to do about that. But send it to me. I'd love to read it. I'd like to read everything. Raider Bo sold him AMC to go all in on GME. All right. More power to you, my man. Whatever you feel comfortable with. Paratarian, you missed my initial comment. Oh, I didn't see it on there. What are your thoughts of Dave Lauer's secret announcement coming up? I didn't know he had a secret announcement coming up. Yeah. I don't feel. I didn't know he had a secret announcement, so I don't know. Andrew Stewart, how do you feel about Uranium One in Wyoming? Nationalize it? Yes. I firmly believe that the spirit of the 1872 mining law is that no foreign national is allowed to own mineral claims on any public lands. That's what the law says. No foreign nationals are allowed to own mineral claims on public lands. But thanks to the Citizens United ruling, gives companies citizenship. So if you are a foreign company and you incorporate a wholly owned subsidiary inside the United States, that counts as an American citizen. So if you are a Kremlin-owned mining operation who wants to mine uranium inside the United States on federally publicly owned lands, right? You have to create a wholly owned subsidiary, and that subsidiary owns the mining claims, even though that subsidiary is owned by a foreign government. I don't like that ruling. I don't like the wealth of our public lands going to foreign companies. Just as much of a problem as I have a problem with, U.S. oil companies going into foreign countries and just bleeding them dry. I don't like that either. I think that those countries should be able to profit from their resources. That's the whole reason why you have borders, right? Is so that stuff inside your borders is yours, not someone else's. But yeah, Uranium One is owned by the Kremlin, and take it. Just take it from them. Nationalize it. Boom. That's now a United States company. Nationalize it in a similar fashion to how we saved and restructured Chrysler and GM. We take it. We put some bureaucrat in charge who's going to be a placeholder and make sure the company runs the way it should. And when the time comes, they can sell it for a profit. Why not? that's what we should do, or sell off the claims to somebody else that's not tied to Russia. This is definitely our opportunity to get a lot of oligarch investments out of our companies. I mean, Russian oligarchs connected to the Kremlin own huge parts of Facebook, Twitter, Google, Texas Instruments, like lots of American companies. They own a lot of this stuff. And I say if they're connected to the Kremlin, take it, nationalize it, make it the start of a sovereign wealth fund for the United States. I mean, other countries that have sovereign wealth funds have incredible investments and are able to do amazing stuff with it. Norway, a population of 4 million people, has a $1.3 trillion sovereign wealth fund. Why don't Canada has huge? The Canadian government has sovereign wealth funds, and then each individual province has gigantic sovereign wealth funds. The sovereign wealth fund in Nova Scotia is who was the venture capital funding for metamaterials, right? Like we can do awesome things with public money with these things, but instead we auction off our oil leases for pennies and then subsidize these oil companies by billions of dollars, when other nations just have a national oil company and then all that money goes to public infrastructure. Like, if we're going to destroy the environment, we may as well get nice schools out of it, right? Right? Okay. Dario Salinas, what are your thoughts on this great reset people keep talking about? Mostly I think it's conspiracy theories. I finished the book that Schwab wrote about the Great Reset in 2020. It's nothing different than what he's written before every World Economic Forum for the last 50 years. Schwab has this vision that, we can get these rich, powerful people together and we can do a collective good for the world and change things and focus on climate change. And I think it's really naive of him, because what WEF actually is he has this thing with these forums and meetings and stuff, but really all the billionaires get together, have cocktails, and strike huge corporate deals with each other, and then they go home, while their trophy wives go skiing at Parsen. There's nothing different in his Great Reset book than what's been in all the other publications he wrote before the start of these things. And there's nothing from that book that's been put into legislation anywhere. It's all just speak. But until you get the oil producers to stop producing oil, it's just flapping lips at this point. I don't think there's any Great Reset. I think it's just kind of billionaire versus billionaire, and all of them want to be on top, and every once in a while they use each other for an advantage. But for the most part, I don't think there's any new world order to take over, because they all hate each other. All the bankers hate the other bankers. They want their stuff. Everyone who has an automotive company wants the other automotive company to go away. They're always fighting with each other. There's a reason why they keep gobbling each other up. It's because they want the competition. You go from 20 oil companies to 4. All right, there's 4 big oil companies now. That's it, because they all gobble each other up. And if they could gobble up more without violating antitrust laws, they would. Until there's one that ruled them all. So yeah, I just don't. I think most of the Great Reset talk is just paranoia. A lot of it, digging into it deeper, is kind of anti-Semitic. There's a lot of globalists and Jew bankers and stuff like that are thrown in there, and I don't feel comfortable with that at all. Somehow George Soros, who was a child victim of the Nazis, is also a Nazi himself. No, that's not how it works. People talking about the Kanazarian mafia, which is the Jewish mafia they claiming are behind Zelensky in Ukraine and stuff. No, that's all anti-Semitic tropes of this New World Order, Elders of Zion crap, and I just don't buy into it. It's garbage. I mean, if there was a really all-powerful Jewish New World Order, I would be in it, man. I wouldn't be doing YouTube videos. I'd be, sign me the fuck up. I will gladly help you run your organization. But there just isn't one. If there was, they wouldn't be freaking targeted by so many hate groups around the world. They would have taken care of those hate groups a long time ago. Okay. Okay, so you're aiming one question. Fried Tater, aloha from Wahoo. Where are finding the best coverage of what's happening in Ukraine? I've got a few accounts I'm following on Twitter. The one that has the best, like, quick military analysis that seems to do a good job is, was it O-N... Ah, crap. I have to find it. The problem is that, like, different times of the day, different people are awake doing their stuff. Where are you? You're going to have to pop up eventually because you tweet like every 3 minutes. Where are you? 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 Is it fun watching a guy just scroll on his phone while you're sitting at home? Yes, scroll on your phone. Scroll away. Scroll on your phone, because eventually, if you keep scrolling, one of that dude's tweets are going to show up. And I cannot remember the name of the group at all to save my life. If I go there, maybe that'll work. Oh, there we go. Okay. OSINT Technical. It's a former defense contractor journalist that's like basically just collecting information and distributing it, and they do a pretty good job trying to verify information. So like they'll delete tweets if they think something's wrong. Like I deleted a tweet, Ukrainian fighters primarily because there isn't best supporting evidence, blah blah blah. So like they're doing a good job trying to keep legit information out there for everyone. So they're pretty good. BNO News, and actually Unusual Whales has been doing a great job. I think Unusual Whales and BNO News are using the same wire services because they're kind of coming out with information like one minute ahead of the other when they pump them out. Like BNO News isn't necessarily like a news organization in that they're doing deep in-depth research. They pretty much just collect info and get it out to people. So as stuff comes across the news wire, they gobble it up and just send you the headlines so that you have an idea of what you should be about to read when an article comes. And it's pretty handy to like get stuff as it comes. It's not like New York Times, which will sit and will write 2,000 words and the editor will see it and they'll post it. It's more like, this thing just blew up. It'll be live on TV in a minute, and you'll see that stuff happen. Space Monkey. If I gave $100 to any millionaire trader, could they make it $1 million in a year's time? I doubt it highly. I bet they lost it in seconds with risk. Yeah. There was someone who was DMing with me this summer, and they had taken $500, and their goal was to make like 10,000 with it or something, and they had gotten to like $4,000 and then lost it all. So that stuff's kind of funny. Although I think I talked about this in shows past. A few years ago, there's a contest between like business and finance schools every year. They're given X number of dollars and then make trades. So they have this little program. They're given like $20,000 and they got to make trades for stocks. And then whoever gets the most gains in a year wins some sort of scholarship or something for the class. And this teacher in, I want to say like Kansas or Nebraska, signed his third graders up for it. And the third graders absolutely crushed every one of the business and finance schools. They had like 40% gains across the board for the entire school year. And they won all the scholarship money. And it turns out that the third graders just traded like third graders. They basically bought stock. They'd find out like the toy they really wanted and they'd buy stock in that company. And everyone likes Under Armour shoes. So they just bought Under Armour stock. everybody likes this one toy, so they bought Hasbro stock. And because they bought nothing but things that were currently in fads, that's when these stocks all saw huge gains. Why? Because if a third grader knows about it and wants it, then that's what's going to be the hot toy at Christmas. Those are the shoes, parents are going to be buying their kids throughout the year. Those are the things that consumers are buying, and so that's good reports for the folks that run these companies. And so the stock prices went up. And so these third graders absolutely just crushed all of these schools that were using all sorts of weird derivative plays and options and all this stuff. And the kids were just buying straight stocks of companies that made things they liked. and then they won. So something to be said for just straightforward innocence on that. Okay. Project Sun, there are people in Girk's chat today claiming your brother works for Torchlight, MMTLP, playing you insider info. Can you clear that up? No, my brother works at Metamaterials. He's in charge of production at Metamaterials. But I do not talk to him about it. There's nothing I know about Metamaterials that isn't in a press release or anything else, because my 300 shares that are worth $500 and something are not worth, getting Martha Stewarted away. Yeah. Okay. Ted Tremendous, Houston loves living in constant fear, hence the glass straw. Probably should get like a nice soft silicone straw or something. Cybernetic Kiwi. Ukraine has just announced they are going to be auctioning war bonds to international investors. Good investment? Well, right now it's a better investment than it would have been prior. Actually, practically it would have been a way better investment like a week ago, because probably got them really cheap. But Ukraine does need the money. They've promised a pretty significant wage to those who stayed behind and fight. It's equivalent of about $3,300 US per month per fighter, a minimum that they're going to be earning, because they want to reward them for standing behind and taking care of the homeland. But man, good investment or not? I think right now they've got the upper hand for sure. Things may change as the season changes and stuff starts to dry out, and it becomes easier for Russians to get tanks across, poppy field or wheat fields and things like that. But right now they can't drive on anything except for paved roads, which is really putting them at a disadvantage. And by spring they may not have equipment to drive across the border. So I guess, yeah, it's probably a pretty good deal. Especially if all these groups that have Russian bonds are worth zero, need somewhere to put some money. Why not? Why not indeed? They're gonna have to buy tons of ammo. They're gonna have to buy tons of machinery and jets and everything else. Sounds like they're being given jets by Poland and Romania and those members of NATO. So they're being given all of the Russian-built SUs and MiGs. And then the United States government is supplying F-16s to those nations. So they're going to have more modern NATO regulation jets. So but you still need fuel. You still need munitions. You still need lots of stuff for those things. And you need to be able to pay the people who are flying it. Even though there's lots of national pride stuff, they still have to eat and sleep and have a home, all those things. Every seeker's conquered fear. Stephen Latham. Houston, I heard that the reason crypto is ripping is that Russians are trying to convert to crypto before their currency is worthless. Thoughts? That's what I think. I think they're trying to get as much as they can out of rubles, because rubles are going to be basically a thing of the past. It's going to be Weimar Republic type, wheelbarrows of cash to buy a loaf of bread type value of the currency, because no one wants it. No one wants it. No one can use it. If you have a stack of it, you can't use it for anything. So, the central bank is trying to do all sorts of things. They're trying to do a fixed price. Like, they're trying to make only 101 rubles per dollar and no more than that. And it's already blown right past that. They've been trying to fixed price it, but it's not really working. Okay. Josh Dobbs, could I or anyone theoretically be the last man holding the last synthetic share that must be bought back? If I hold it to infinity, would normal stock market tickers show the actual price I want? I mean, theoretically, possibly. So if you think about it, like, your synthetic share can get deleted in two ways. It can get deleted because somebody bought a legit share, took that share and replaced your synthetic and took the IOU back, and then you no longer have a synthetic share. Or they can buy your synthetic share and just stick it through the shredder and delete it forever. Those are the two ways of synthetic Spanish. So if you have the last synthetic share and someone sells a real share, they can delete that share from existence because they sold their real share for however much money. And that's so your synthetic share can be deleted out of existence by replacing it with a real one without you making any sales whatsoever. Just someone got their hands on one through an option or whatever and went delete. So I don't think theoretically it would actually work in the end. You need a huge group of people refusing to sell. So the infinity pool, I think, has to be larger than the float for that to work. So if you have an infinity pool of 70 million plus shares, then that group together can guarantee that those synthetics cannot be replaced. That's the way I see it. Okay. BW Brand, best bet to get good healthcare is from a member of Congress. Bingo. You have the best gold, platinum healthcare plan there is. Okay. Cat hair in my eye. Very, very likely. Okay. I am so far behind. I'm so far behind that... okay. Monaco. Monaco's the other one that blocked. Thank you, DEA. Got that dope. That's who it was. It wasn't Malta. Monaco is seizing properties owned by oligarchs, which is a lot. There's a whole bunch of former Putin mistresses that live in beautiful mansions and townhomes and own large yachts that they're not allowed to touch because they belong to Putin. But they're living this life of luxury in Monaco as a result of managing this great wealth for him. Yeah. So Monaco, deleting these Russian assets is a big deal because there's a lot of it stored there as a tax haven. Okay. Orb in his live stream. Okay. Hungry Caveman. Hey, Houston, if our environmental issues are not dealt with, what would be a possible event that could end all civilization? Then how long would it take Earth to repair itself and support life again? Oh. I don't know if we will pump enough carbon into the atmosphere where we could get runaway greenhouse effect, which is what Venus has. If we boiled off the oceans and all of the carbon trapped in limestones and marbles and oil and coal managed to get into the atmosphere, we would have an atmosphere similar to Venus, where it's like 97% carbon dioxide, 100 pounds of pressure per square inch, 900 degrees Fahrenheit, sulfuric acid in the air. That type of runaway greenhouse effect would happen if the water evaporated off the oceans. I think that so much meltwater will come from land ice that it will wipe out huge swaths of population and kill our ability to pump CO2 in the atmosphere for quite a while. We'll be basically sticks and stones and, you know, roving bands of people living off of what we can scavenge at that point, with maybe a few entrenched, wealthy, powerful individuals in their lairs. So I don't know if we'll ever get to the point that we'll just wipe out all human beings or all life. If it did get to that point, it would never cool off again. If we had runaway greenhouse effect, the Earth would be so insulated with how much CO2 was in the atmosphere that it would never cool. And then eventually, 4 billion years from now, the sun will expand and then eat up the Earth, and that would be it. So yeah, I see much more, you know, a third to 2/3 of the human population being underwater, and us not readily recovering from that, and probably having wars over scant resources while we die of weird toxic cancers and what were previously unthinkable ailments and whatnot, poisoning. Okay. You think Putin will use nukes? I think he'll use them. I think morale in the Russian military is really low. The generals are really pissed off. The generals are generals because that's the great way to become an oligarch. You could become the head of a section of the military. You can use all the graft and steal all the resources you want, sell off oil and weapons, and you become a billionaire with your fancy ships and, you know, henchmen and whatnot. All those guys have had their accounts frozen. They offshored trillions of dollars over the last 30 years and thinking like, oh, buddy, I got all this money in the Panama and in Cyprus and everywhere, and now they don't have access to any of it. And so they're cut off, and they're pissed at Putin for doing this to them. Life as an oligarch was good, man. They were living the life. They had their ships with hot models, and they're living really good. And now they aren't. And so Putin says, well, if I can't have it, no one can. I'm going to launch 500 nuclear missiles from my submarines. When that call goes to that submarine captain, he's going to go, no, we're not doing that. If the call goes to someone at ICBM bunker silo in Siberia, they're going to look at it and I'm like, dude, this guy pays me $200 a month. I'm not doing that. I don't think the Russian people like him very much. There's a certain group of elites who may still be tied to him, but at this point, I think Putin's doomed because the oligarchs are going to eat him, because they would rather have the good life than go down in a blaze of glory for this like tiny little megalomaniac. And I think if Putin gave the order to fire nukes, that there's going to be anyone who's going to go, no, we're not doing that. That's my hope. And that's what I'm leaning towards on my prediction side. And that way, when it doesn't happen, I'm like, I was right. And if it does happen, and he nukes us all, there's no one left to say I was wrong. That's, imagine my bet on that one. Sean Marcos, any comments regarding recent proposed SEC rules that would enforce short reporting, but market makers are exempted? Is it a dud already? That would be a dud. If market makers still have the superpowers to not report and not have to pay for FTDs and actually deliver what they sell, then all of it is lip service, man. Market makers need to have their wings clipped. They need to be brought back down to reality, and they need to actually follow what should be ethical and heavily regulated laws. Their ability to push liquidity through the market is not as important as our ability to not be screwed by them. The SEC needs to put more teeth in that sucker, for sure. Okay. Chicken tender daddy, eyeball, lip, eyeball. All right. Andrew Stewart, I agree with you on Uranium 1, but would that mean we would have to kick Shell, BP, and Stat Oil out as well? Sounds like a can of worms no one will open. Well, the 1872 mining law does not cover energy resources. So it's a bit different. It only covers minerals. I'm not sure. I don't know enough about oil law for groups like that and how that plays on federal land. Although I would love to kick out every oil company and just have a national oil company that benefits all of us. Saudi Arabia gets to do it. Scotland gets to do it. Norway gets to do it. All these nations, the Emirates, Libya, like Russia, all these nations have their state oil companies, and they're allowed to, extract these resources for the public. I'm all for that. I don't think Exxon does us any good. Exxon they'll pay $1 billion for commercials to brag about how they spent $100 million on green technology research in their labs. It's like when Domino's spent like $50 million in the advertising campaign to talk about how they like replaced $8,000 in potholes. There's just no one's winning on that one. it's I don't know. Our return on investment as owners of these resources is pretty terrible at this point. Chud McGruff Cakes. Hey, Houston, is there a market for the stolen Russian military vehicles that people have been snagging when Russians abandoning them? Happy very birthday to you. Definitely. Holy smokes. Are you kidding me? I wonder how much... okay, let me see here. Okay. Right, T-14 tank costs $3.7 million to build. So if you steal a T-14... I bet you could sell that sucker on the black market for $1 million easily, right? Why not? You just became a millionaire if you got yourself a T-14 tank. I don't know if people would want a T-14 tank, seeing just how easily the javelins and LRAVs are just NLAWs are ripping through them. But if you're spending almost $4 million to build one, and you have to leave it behind because you ran out of gas, you just made a farmer in Ukraine $1 million. Not too shabby. Yeah. Good question, though, Chud McGruff Cakes. Do know, why don't you want people to know your birthday? Because it's fun watching you guys guess every day of the year. That's a simple reason. Okay. All right. Oh, another one here. Richard Fortune. Houston used Russian weapons emporium. I like it. Yeah. I'm sure that there is... I'm sure that most of those weapons are going to be given to Ukrainian fighters to do with what they will. Some of the Ukrainian groups that like the stuff that was happening in Kharkiv, those light armor guys that were going in with infantry and they just got smoked by the local Ukrainians. They basically resupplied that entire group with all sorts of rocket propelled grenades, AK ammo, rations, trucks. Those groups are now well equipped all of a sudden. There was a funny memo that was sent out by the Russians saying, anyone who arms the Ukrainians, they'll face repercussions. Well, at this point, the Russians seem to be arming the Ukrainians more than anybody else. So, if all your soldiers are abandoning their equipment and running for the hills, then that all of a sudden that becomes Ukrainian equipment. And, oops. Okay. Alright, chat just reset again. One sec. Let me try to get somewhere up here. Okay. Tropical TV. The latest sanction on Vladimir's black belt was revoked by the International Taekwondo Organization. He also lost his... he was the... what do you call it, Monkey? The honorary president of the World Judo organization, and they revoked his honorary status as president of the judo organization. So, you know, he's losing all the things that probably matter to him more than anything, is being perceived as like this like badass, shirtless badass. And they're like, no, you don't get that anymore. Houston, I heard a lot of dust was stirred up at Chernobyl. Are we getting season 2? Yeah, apparently there was a bunch of strikes that hit waste piles, shelling hit waste piles, and then the tanks driving around are kicking up tons of dust. So my guess is the soldiers that are there right now are probably not going to be doing well in 5 years after being stuck to stage at Chernobyl. And I was reading that the idea behind staging at Chernobyl was that no one would have the guts to shell or bomb Chernobyl and to get rid of the Russians there, which is probably pretty smart. But you know, no one wants to crack the dome that's sealing the reactor in. But you know, if you want to wipe out a whole bunch of Russians, I guess you would do the opposite of that. So maybe it's a terrible place to be staging. Can we do a GeoGuessr one time? You guys want to do a GeoGuessr on the YouTube stream and not the Twitch stream? Oh man. All right, you guys want to do a GeoGuessr? We'll do. So you have an idea of what life is like when I do my late night Twitch streams. We can do one GeoGuessr. Live streaming. No, not that one. That one. Okay. Okay. You really want to do a GeoGuessr? You really want to do a GeoGuessr? We'll do one GeoGuessr. Okay. Well, let's do one. We won't do a whole thing. Play it. All right. Let's do one. Not all 5 of them, because that'll take forever. Ah, crap. We're stuck somewhere on a road. It's a beautiful road. Looks very European, though. You'll notice white lines on the outside, no stripe down the middle. This looks very limestone-ish out here. Okay, we got... That's a very European sign as well. I think we're in Europe. I'm going to guess that we are perhaps in Italy. Maybe somewhere in the Pyrenees because of all the limestone. And it's always safe to go downhill. So let's go downhill. Let's drive downhill. Let's go down here. We got ourselves a nice little river. We got ourselves some man trucks. What's that say? I can't read that quite yet. Paroj, some blah, blah, blah. Looks like waste management of some kind. What do you say? Do you have a name on you that I can read? St. Julia, Deloria. This might be Italy. I may have gotten that right off the bat. Okay, what town are we in? It's just a little way station here. Transports, Canario, Trans. Got tiny little European cars. Might be in like the Dolomites or something. Okay, no website saying what that is yet. It's always nice. Sometimes they'll have a website that will have the national suffix on there. Okay, coming through here, ITVS. More European-ish cars. Definitely European phone number. Continuing downhill. Continuing downhill. Prohibit rentar coxes? I don't know what that means. Magatizams. Alright. Where are we? Where are we? Now the goal is to get within like a yard of where you are. It's quite the industrial area in this beautiful little valley here. Crystalleries. Els Cotal. We're in the fall. Trees are turning yellow, or there's no leaves at all on some of these. Uto. What do you have to say for yourself? Material per la constructio. Definitely Italian. Okay. Dragasa. Keep going. Keep going downhill. We're gonna figure out what town. Whoa. Figure what town we're in. Come on. Here we go. Got a nice little cafe. Bar Restaurant Carmen. So Carmen restaurant there. Got a soccer field. Okay, here we go. So we gotta be in the Italian Alps. Immobiliaria. Come on, give me a. Whoa, oh, there's Bar Restaurant Carmen again. It's everywhere. Come on, keep going. Drive, my friend. Go forward. Oh, go forward. Where are we going? Okay, there we go. España. Oh, nope, I'm in the Pyrenees. Damn it. Okay, I'm in the Pyrenees. I'm not in Italy. So I got my second guess was correct. So, go a little map. We're up in the Pyrenees. So we are somewhere in this border region. Not too far from Andorra, because Andorra is on there. So we got to be somewhere in here. So La Vella. So we take a left. We're facing east right now. So facing that way. So maybe we're on one of these. España, Deloria, and La Vella, Andorra. Where's La Vella? La Vella. I don't know. I'm facing east. I gotta take a left to get there. Means I must be down here. Gotta head up there. So it must be on N145. Got the roundabout. If I want to go left, I'm going to Andorra. If I want to go right, I'm going to España. What's that say for me? What road is this? Tell me. Tell me what road you are. Tell me. Ugh. Yeah, go that way. No highway number, you jerk. Why would you do that to me? Alright, so make it quick. I'm just going to throw it down in there. Totally just pulling on my butt. I have no idea how close I am. Where am I? Oh, I was in Andorra. Alright, 10 miles away. Not too shabby. If I could spend more time, I could nail it down to like within a couple of feet if I'm lucky. There we go. There we go. Alright, so there's GeoGuessr. One round of GeoGuessr for you folks. Back to Big Houston. Are you happy? You happy about that? All right, so those Latin languages, they always mess me up. 346 is in 376. Oh, you know, all the Euros in here telling me Andorra. All right. And Peter Brand says, please no, watch a few hundred hours of GeoGuessr. All right, Precious Son, you talked about Alexander Van Humboldt. Last time I asked, what Tesla-level scientist should everyone know about? Asking again, because you mentioned thinking more on that question. Definitely read about Buckminster Fuller. I've got a few of his biographies and some of his books too. And I've got a signed book by him as well. Move out of the way. So we've got this guy. This is And It Came to Pass. This is signed by Buckminster Fuller and a ticket. My sister gave this to me for Christmas. She found it at like some sort of church book sale somewhere. And so I got a signed Buckminster Fuller book to Helene. From San Rafael, California. He had some sort of Buckminster Fuller talk. 1977. So that's pretty cool. That's one of my little treasures. Where is my Buckminster Fuller? Where did I put your biographies? I don't remember. I may have given it to somebody if I don't have it. The one I like the best. Let's see if I can find it. Okay. It's written by a lady. Buckminster Fuller's Universe, His Life and Works. That's it. Okay. This one here. L. Stephen Steeden. This is the one I like the best. I couldn't remember who wrote it. It was a lady that wrote the Tesla one I liked. But this was the best one I read out of. I read 3 of them, and this one seemed to like have everything in there. Yeah. So there you go. That's a good one. Do that one next. Buckminster Fuller. was really interesting. He was a brilliant engineer and visionary and kind of weird. I mean, he like his reason for eating like nothing but beef was like a cow can eat 20,000 pounds of grain or 20,000 pounds of grass. I can't. So the cow ate the grass, turned it into meat, and I just eat the cow. That's my reasoning. And he just built cool stuff. I found with a coworker once. I was working at a grocery store when I was like 18, and with a coworker, we found a whole bunch of kittens behind a trash can, a dumpster at the grocery store, and I, saved the cat and the babies, and we raised them for a bit, and then I took one of the kittens and gave it to my little sister, and we named it Buckminster Fuller. He was a pretty cool cat. Coyotes got him though. But yeah, Bucky was a rad dude. He was legally blind, yet quarterback of the Harvard football team at like 16. He invented the octagonal truss, which is the structure you'll see holding up like, bridges, buildings, concert arenas, the triangular latticed gridwork that holds up like stage lights. That's an octagonal truss. He invented that when he was like 3 years old. That's pretty cool. He had the Dymaxion car. The Dymaxion car is pretty badass. Dymaxion car. This guy here. It is 1929, I think, when he designed this. And it could seat 11 people. Could travel 120 miles an hour, making it the fastest land vehicle in the world at the time. And he got 30 miles per gallon. He built like 10 of them or something. There's only a couple that still exist. It was three-wheeled, and it steered from the rear. So it could pull up to a parking spot and then swing its tail in and be parallel parked. It was incredibly safe, but the Detroit guys did not like his safe vehicle that got great gas mileage and had lots of people, and they kind of destroyed them all. There's only a couple left in existence. And I think there might be a couple of people built models of them. But yeah, they're pretty cool looking. What else, Monkey? What else cool things he did? He invented the automatic door. Like the grocery store, that was Buckminster Fuller. He invented those. He invented the fog shower. There's this like mist that you could shoot out of a gun and like clean you better than soap and water. It's pretty cool. He invented the mobile home. Buckminster Fuller is the inventor of the mobile home, the modular home. What else did he do? He built some crazy ones out of like old silos. Buckminster Fuller modular home. Oops, there we go. Yeah, he built these things out of silos. And some of them are pretty cool. There's some of the museums that are pretty neat that were built. It's out of like stainless steel or aluminum. This one is in a museum. Dymaxion House. Where is this one? Wikipedia. Yeah. He invented the Dymaxion Map. Dymaxion... Oops, not Cymaxion. Dymaxion Map. So, problem with maps is you've got a globe, right? And that globe is trying to project a 3D image onto a 2D surface. And so you get all sorts of distortion, whether it's the size of an area of things, the direction of stuff, the shape of things. And so with like a Mercator projection, which you might see in a lot of maps, things in the far northern hemisphere and far southern hemisphere are greatly exaggerated to how big they are, because the idea was to preserve direction for ships that were sailing across the ocean. So you didn't care if it was grossly too large, you just wanted to be able to make sure you're heading in the right direction. The Dymaxion Map does these crazy things where I need a bigger one, where they turn the globe into a geodesic dome made up of these little equilateral triangles, and then they do a projection of each individual part of the globe on those triangles. So basically, direction, shape, and size are mostly preserved by ever so slightly breaking the rules on all three of them. So you make this map and you can get all the land connected together, and it kind of gives you a different view of the world as a result. And you can see like how small the Arctic Ocean is, how everything is so close to each other, and then you lose the vastness of the Pacific as a result, because who cares? Nothing's out there. Right? That's the whole point. Yeah, he did all sorts of cool stuff. He just basically sat around just thinking of things and building them. Yeah, you can. That book's a good book. I recommend it. So do that one. Do that one next. Okay. Missy Mills, Russia needs their people on board at this point. They are masters of propaganda. Take what we see coming out of state TV with a big grain of salt, a giant grain of salt. And just know that when you are on Twitter or Facebook or these social media platforms, a lot of your interactions are going to be with troll farm accounts. There are so many of them. And they are very obvious. Essentially, if you have somebody who's like, Putin does no wrong, you're dealing with a troll farm account. So you just write them off. Yeah. So there we go. Sixth Son, Houston, why are we so anti-Russia? I think we're anti-Putin, not anti-Russia. The kleptocracy of the Russian government has destabilized the globe and is a threat to everybody. Again, the Russian government hacked all 50 voter systems in every single state in the United States. They hack constantly corporations, utilities. They fund far-right neo-Nazi groups around the world. They paid for Marine Le Pen's campaign in France. They were huge funders behind the Brexit campaign. They were the ones who benefited from Cambridge Analytica. So that group that stole that Facebook data of like 87 million Americans, that was Russians. And they took that data. Why? Because Steve Bannon and Kellyanne Conway were vice presidents at Cambridge Analytica. And they gave Russia that information. And then they went on to run the campaign after Manafort had to leave. And Manafort had run Lukashenko's campaigns in Ukraine, and he was a Russian puppet. He got paid $14 million by the Russian government to run those campaigns. This is a very tightly connected work of asymmetrical warfare that Russia's been campaigning on. I mean, most of the anti-vax stuff, all the anti-vax websites that were started in the 2000s, those were all started by Russians. The bots that amplified that stuff, those were all Russians, Russian troll farm accounts. It's what they do, man. The Russians don't have a large enough economy to take everyone head on, and so what they would do is this asymmetrical warfare to try and exude their influence across the board, and that's kind of where we are. Okay, Space Monkey. I heard Steven Seagal joined the Russian army. If I wasn't a fan of Ukraine before, I just became a super fan of them taking him out. Oh, Seagal. I mean, I don't know if you saw his most recent movie. It was like some sniper movie. He was in for about 4 seconds, and every single scene is just him like sitting. He's like, line. I was reading a Twitter thread not too long ago about actors telling their Steven Seagal stories, and there's the movie that he was in with DMX like 15, 20 years ago, and Steven Seagal would refuse to do any blocking or rehearse. He's like, I don't rehearse. I just do my thing and you just film it. And they're doing this scene on a houseboat, and the boat had 2 doors because the boat could have been either way on the dock. So the door opens and you're on the dock, and the door opens and you're in the water. And Steven Seagal refused to go through his lines and do the blocking for the camera and the lighting. And he's like, I'll just shoot when I'm ready. And so they shot, and he did his scene, and he went out the door that went to the water and fell into the water. And just had a hissy fit after that. Steven Seagal's just a dick. And him getting his ass kicked by people every once in a while is just glorious. But yeah, he's a big giant Putin fan, and he's a cop, and he's just a monster. Okay, but yeah, take out Steven Seagal once and for all. Paratarian, word is the U.S. is going to seize oligarch money, help pay for MOAS. Why not? That's a good way to do it. 6 oligarchs spoke out against Putin today. Yep, and they're probably now like checking all of their coffee for polonium. All right. Persia's Son, YouTube needs to ban RT. At least they now have a disclaimer, partly or wholly owned by Russian government. It needs to just be going across like Russian propaganda network across Sputnik and RT and these other Russian things. That 5-Minute Crafts channel, that's owned by the Kremlin. And they do lots of their filming in, I think they do it in like Greece or something. But a lot of their like 5-minute things are actually stuff that can get you injured or don't work. And it's hilarious because they're like, oh, look at this craft, this thing you can do. And it's actually something to get you to like destroy stuff you own. It's just, they're totally trolling you. It's pretty incredible. 60 Minutes had a story on them probably 2 or 3 years ago. It was just like, what? These Russians are just making these videos so people go, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to rip apart this thing that's worth a lot of money and I'm going to make the stuff out of it, and they just ruin it. Okay. All right, scrolling down. I'm only 46 minutes behind right now, so we're getting there. David F., you hear there's a 40-mile-long convoy headed to Kiev. Yes, I'm trying to say Kiev and not Kiev because Kiev is the Russian pronunciation and wanted to be in solidarity with the folks of Ukraine and pronounce it the Ukrainian way and say Kiev. But, 40 years of saying Kiev has made me not do it all the time. Yes, there's a 40-mile-long convoy headed to Kiev. They are lined up on a road, and I'm assuming that there's going to be fighter jets and drones attacking that thing in the front and rear, and picking off what they can while they can. If those the MTOS, those the vacuum bomb trucks, those things are anywhere inside that convoy, they'll wipe out a square mile of them, man. When those things blow up, the explosion is huge. Yeah, and fueling that many, there's probably 5,000 trucks all getting, I don't know, 2-3 miles to the gallon tops. Those tanks probably might be getting a mile per gallon or less. What is the fuel efficiency of fuel efficiency of T14 tank? Okay, has operating range of 310 miles. So basically, what your pickup truck will have. Holds 505 gallons. So basically it's getting less than a mile per gallon. So a road range of 310 miles, a cross-country range of 125 miles. So the minute they get off-road, the range cuts in half. 505 gallons, that's a lot of gallons of fuel, man. Oof. All right. Yeah. Okay. And a T-72 apparently is even worse. So, 0.6 miles per gallon. All right. So there you go. And now you got hundreds of these things in lines with giant trucks and light tactical vehicles and UAVs and all sorts of things. They just gotta, yeah, they're toast. Okay. But yeah, I wouldn't want to deal with that. Bill Coyne, what if Putin owns millions and millions of GME and AMC out of country, and all he is doing is tripping the MOAS? Then he becomes the richest man in the world, pulls back army. What if? What if that was the case, right? He already is the richest man in the world. Okay. Do I need to reboot, or is Houston's feed blurry? I'm crisp here, but I'm looking at my feed side, and it doesn't look like it's coming through at HD, so it might be a little blurry. Sorry if that's the case. I don't have the power over how my internet is transmitted. I apologize. Okay. Apollo God, Rothschilds are the richest in the world, with a massive 500 trillion in wealth, way more than Putin and Bezos together. Really? I don't think the Rothschilds have amassed 500 trillion in wealth. I think the richest Rothschild is like 1.4 billion. Wealthiest Rothschild. Baron Benjamin de Rothschild. He's got a net worth of 1.1 billion as of April 2020. I mean, they could have offshored lots of stuff. I mean, Americans have done that. A lot of Americans that are worth like $5 billion are probably actually worth 40 billion, but in offshore accounts that they don't list because they don't want to let that be known. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that. Space Monkey is looking to buy puts on Russia, not only because Jim Cramer is betting on them, but because I hate them. How do I do that? Not a clue. I don't know if any of the securities are trading. You might be able to buy puts on like Rosneft or something. What Russian stocks trade out here? Buying puts on Russian stocks. Apparently no one's really allowing them to trade anything. So, yeah, so I'm not sure how puts will pay out if they can't trade, so there's no price that gets listed. But, Norway's sovereign wealth fund is jettisoning, $4 or $5 billion in Rosneft. BP is closing out their 20% share in Rosneft as well. They're like, man, we're done. So, I don't know. If you can figure out a way to buy puts on them, do it. I don't know how you can. Maybe credit default swaps on some of their bonds that are valued at zero. Not a clue. Anyone who knows better, who's better at international trading and knows those things, lay it on me, man. Andrew M. Houston, what about the whole Burisma scandal with Hunter Biden, Schumer's son, and Pelosi's daughter? Ukraine is the money laundering capital of the world, is it not? It is not the money laundering capital of the world. That's probably Panama, Cyprus, Malta, or the Caymans. Okay, the Burisma scandal is kind of a nothing burger. Hunter Biden joined 2 years after the probe into the company had stopped. So trying to say that like Hunter Biden stopped the investigation into Burisma, he joined in 2014 and the probe stopped in 2012 or something. So that's be like saying you joined Enron in 2006, right? Like you're not responsible for all that stuff that happened prior. You join them after all the crimes, even though they don't exist anymore. Yeah, it's kind of a nothing burger. I don't think family members of elected politicians should be able to do certain jobs. And I would think that, using your sway to become on the board of an oil company, an energy company outside the United States based on your name is very good. But then again, 2008, Don Jr. was admitting that their entire wealth of their family came from Russian oligarchs and investments from Russians. So there's a lot more tied up with Russian money in the Trump family than there ever will be with Ukrainian energy money for the few months that Hunter Biden worked for Burisma. I think we stop all of them from doing jobs like that. That'd be great. But, Trump literally tried bribing Putin with a $50 million penthouse condo if he could get approval to build a tower in Moscow, which is that's a felony. That's a felony of bribing a head of state. Russian oligarchs funded Trump Soho. Russian oligarchs funded Trump Toronto. Russian oligarchs bought most of the condos that he built in Florida. It is Russian oligarch money all the way that funded that stuff. Tons of Russian oligarchs own condos in Trump Tower as it is. including ones that got busted running casinos inside Trump Tower, illegal casinos. So, the Russian mafia has deep, 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 deep ties into that family for sure. It's kind of like folks are trying to complain that Hillary Clinton had allowed Russia to buy Uranium One. There was this huge donation to the Clinton Foundation, which resulted in Russia buying Uranium One. Well, you got to look at a calendar. It was a Canadian who sold Uranium One to another Canadian company, who then donated a huge chunk of change to the Clinton campaign, or the Clinton Foundation. And 2 years later, that Canadian company sold to the Russian company. So it'd be like saying, it'd be like me donating money to a cause, right? And then 2 years later, somebody's completely unconnected to me does something and I get blamed for it. You got to look at a calendar. Sometimes the calendar kind of tells you what's going on. The dude who had sold Uranium One, or the parent company Uranium One, original proto company, whatever you want to call it, he was no longer part of the company. He was 2 years removed. He was retired. And then the company he sold it to then sold it. And the problem was not the people who are selling it. The problem was Citizens United allowing it to be bought in the first place. And you should not have... The Canadian company should have been allowed to own... Canadians should not be allowed to own mineral rights on U.S. Public lands. So that whole problem starts beginning from that Citizens United decision, making companies citizens and giving them the rights of citizens. They're not. They're not citizens. And I totally disagree with that all the way. Okay. Tremendous. Somewhere in Malaysia, there's a PC farm filled with third graders making trades on Citadel's algorithm trades. I dig it. Andrew M., what's your opinion on the mistreatment of blacks and foreigners trying to leave Ukraine? Shouldn't all women and children be evacuated first, regardless of citizenship? I totally agree. They should be allowed to cross the borders and given refugee status, or allowed to go home wherever they shouldn't be kept. And I think enough international shame has hit the Polish government. The Polish government is finally allowing them through. They're claiming like, oh, there's no way to verify them and whatever. Like, who cares? They're fleeing a war zone. That passive racism garbage needs to stop. There's all sorts of... You see all sorts of folks that are like, well, we care about this war because there's a bunch of white people who look like us. That's garbage. War is war. It's awful. Refugees are going to show up needing help no matter where they're from. Whether they look like you or not, we figure out ways to welcome them to where they end up. The United States has 3 million square miles. We've got plenty of space and plenty of houses. It's 800,000 homes owned by BlackRock that can, house some refugees. So why not? I have no problem with it. Wildcat Ape, why do you think the market reacted positively to the war in Ukraine? Not a clue. I think, judging from the first 5 days of this conflict not going Russia's way, might prove that some of those folks who made it green on Thursday and Friday were perhaps right. But in the end, there's huge investments into Russian bonds, banks that are Russian controlled that are going to be collapsing. And I'm not sure we have quite have answers for a lot of that yet. There's going to be lots of margin calls based on crushing these Russian investments at the moment. And that's a lot to be seen as what happens from that. And I don't know. We may have seen some sort of quiet injection of capital into the markets on Thursday and Friday to keep it from crashing hard. And that's what may have kept us afloat. We might not hear about it for like a year. Oh yeah, so the Federal Reserve just kind of injected $1 trillion in the market and kept those prices afloat. We just might not hear about it. There could be lots of things at play, but whatever it is, I think it's manipulation by someone. Project Sun, lol, I had insider info once. It felt really cool even though I couldn't do anything about it. Discuss it. I was working in a bar, and these two guys that were executives at Amazon were talking about very proprietary things, and the other bartender leaned in. He's like, yeah, you guys probably want to be talking about this as loud as you are, because your competitors are all around you. They go, oh shit. So, sometimes you got to watch out where you talk about that stuff. Germany sending weapons to Ukraine. Yes, they are. Germany, I think, was pretty embarrassed because their main sort of Ukraine desk guy who was in Ukraine kept saying that Putin's not going to invade. It's no chance. It's not happening. And then he had to run back to Germany with his tail between his legs. And I think the Germans were pretty embarrassed by that. That the US and UK intel was like spot on correct. Which is, Americans are not used to having their intelligence service tell them things that are true. They're used to, like George Bush forcing the intelligence services to lie about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. They're used to stuff like that. When, and when there's an intelligence official like Valerie Plame, Ambassador Wilson's wife, when there's someone like that who's like, no, it's not accurate, and they come forward and they just get hammered down by the powers that be. We're used to seeing things like that on our end, which is bad. We should be able to take the counter intel and weigh it against what's being said. It might save us from spending 20 years in Iraq destroying lives and whatever and creating the nightmare that was the refugee crisis out of Iraq, which then led to weakening of other governments in the region, which led to the Syrian civil war and so on. If we had just never invaded Iraq, a lot of things would be a lot better off right now. Okay. Crass and Strange, $20,000 for an N-Law. I bet the scrap it leaves is worth more than that. Yeah, those N-Laws are crazy. I've seen videos of them. But they lock onto a target. They have some sort of laser system, and they rocket towards it, and they explode over the target, sending just incredible shrapnel into the tanks and destroying them. They're crazy, and they're so fast. And I don't think the Russians counted on the anti-tank weapons being as prolific and as used as they are. I don't think that they're like, oh, we're just going to march in with our tanks and we're going to fire from far away, and then all these dudes on foot are like shablap. And the Russians don't have the infantry to walk around these tanks and escort them, and it's really just poor planning. Lots of really poor planning. The generals who plan this stuff, I don't know where they went to school, man, but they did a shit job. Could have been a lot better. Whoa, and there it goes. Resets again on me. That's all right. We'll scroll up here and Ukraine will be world leader in scrap metal exports. Oh man, I don't do Russian tanks use depleted uranium as armor like we do in the U.S. Russian tanks depleted uranium armor. Like America, Russian tanks are now shooting depleted uranium. That's not what I want. Okay. Now, it just says they use depleted uranium shells, but I don't see anything about depleted uranium armor. Depleted uranium shells are gnarly. That's going to cause all sorts of problems for folks everywhere. But yeah, I don't see anything about depleted uranium armor. Might just be hardened steel at this point. Maybe tungsten, stuff like that. Okay. Topical TV, there's 512 people watching. Statistically, he shares a birthday with one of us. Quick, what's everyone's birthday? It gets even weirder than that. If you have 30 people in a room, right, there's almost a 100% chance that 2 of those people have the same birthday. And I do this with my math students every quarter. I'm like, okay. I tell them the stats. I work out the math for them. And they go, oh, that's bullshit. That's not going to happen. I'm like, all right, everyone born in January, raise your hand. And then 2 people raise their hand. I'm like, okay, birthday January 6th, birthday January 14th. All right, forget you. People in February, raise your hand. 1 person raises their hand. Okay, not you. People born in March, raise your hands. And 30 people raise their hand. Birthday, March 30th. Birthday, March 15th. Birthday, March 30th. Ta-da! So it's much more right. So with there being 521 people in here, there's probably a dozen of you who might share my birthday at that rate. Yeah, we'll see. I had a friend that had the same birthday as her dad. She's like, "What are the odds of that?" And I was like, 1 in 365. She's like, "Oh, you're right. Yeah." So, yeah, the odds end up going that quickly. Jonathan K. Russian rations from 1995 is on Reddit. I saw Russian rations that expired in 2015 that were being handed out to soldiers. That's where that who's that dude that eats like the old military rations? He's like, let's get that sucker on the tray, and he's had botulism a bunch of times. He'll go out there, he'll eat all of that stuff for them. Love that guy's channel. Bull-ish on Houston's second intro. HW, have you been turning profit on anything else, or just invested in waiting on MOAS? I'm glad I got a chance to catch a live one today. My past couple of weeks have been just clunkers. I think, I'm going to get some weeklies for puts on this or calls on that for like VIX or the SPY, and it just does the opposite. I need to like hedge my bets a little more. I've been contemplating my next big purchase is I may shoot for metamaterial or BBig, or maybe BBig, like $9-10 calls for far out for July or October. I mean, if I can get 400 to 800 calls, and you can buy them at, I don't know, 9-10 cents on a red day per call, and that stock price hits $100 a share, there's $4 to $8 million. Not too shabby for like a $2,000 to $4,000 investment. So that might be my next big gamble, is to invest in that and just sit and wait and hope that stock squeezes at some point. But other than that, I'm just kind of sitting on all my squeeze plays, just sitting and waiting and sitting and waiting and sitting and waiting. And that's about it. So I may slowly build up those calls just to, Leroy Jenkins my way to millionaire status on if they squeeze the way I think they're going to squeeze. DEA got that dope. Russian army generals perform worse because they are Soviet system living in a bubble, and troll farms perform better because they can use the internet. You might be right on that. That these guys are antiquated. They are from antiquated system. They assume they've got the glory of everything behind them, but they don't have enough professional soldiers to like take care of that. So, oops. And there you go. That's kind of where they are. Okay. More Russian rations talk. I can see Houston driving an MRAP around Seattle. Yeah. Okay. And Matt going to $70, says Aaron Salentine. I hope it goes higher than that. I would love it to go higher than that. That'd be fantastic. That'd be retirement money, and then I could dump it into GME if it hasn't squeezed yet. Okay. Okay, I got to the point where I'm playing GeoGuessr, and we're just throwing out random nations. And there's Protege Sun, Andorra. Yep. And all the Andorra folks. Okay. Juan Beckett, is GME ever going to issue dividends? I feel like GME does not care about triggering MOAS in any possible way, and this will drag on for 10 or more years. I think them issuing, you know, a couple of dollars special dividend at $5 or something they could afford. They've got $1.5 billion in cash on hand. They could do a dividend at $5, right? And that would go out to everyone who has those 70 million shares. So that's $350 million. They can afford that. But if there's 4 billion naked shorts, that's $20 billion they got to come up with. Yeah, that could trigger things. Even just a cash dividend at that point. Brandon M. Houston, what do you think of the Appalachian truffle and truffle farming? I don't like truffles. I don't like the taste of them at all, and I think they make everything that they touch taste like truffles. But if I could teach Monkey Butt to sniff one out, I totally would go hunting in the forest for truffles and sell them, because I have no problem selling something for like $500 an ounce. But man, I follow a girl who is a pig, and she's training it to smell out truffles and go hunting in the Appalachians. Sounds like a rad job. Why not? I love going for walks. And if you can go for walks and make money, that's the entire reason why I do mineral exploration. It's because you can go for a walk and make money on it if you do it right. Yeah. North Carolina black truffles. Get them. Get them while you can. We've got white truffles that grow under the fir trees out here that apparently sell for a pretty penny, and I've got a giant forest of fir trees in my backyard, like thousands of acres that just go off into the distance. Yeah. Drives like a forklift. Champ Ion Houston, what do you think the great attractor is, and do you think James will be able to figure it out? I have no idea. The stuff that I've read all thinks some sort of alien superstructure, like what type 2, type 3 type civilization remnants. I don't know. I would love James Webb to point at it and tell us what it is, though. That'd be fantastic. Yeah. If you guys don't know, bring up great attractor. So, it's in a big supercluster, but it's mostly obscured by Milky Way's galactic plane, so we have a hard time seeing it. So we might not be able to see it with the infrared light that James Webb collects, so that might be a problem. Yeah. So you might not be able to see it with information. Hubble's got it. Oh, sorry, you guys can't see. Hubble's got a view here, but mostly it's through the disk. It's really hard to see the infrared, so we have to look through the disk to see anything that's there, and it's pretty rough. But maybe we got something cool out of it. I don't know. It's way bigger. James Webb's way bigger than Hubble ever could be, so it's got better cameras on it. All right. Oh, it's 8:54. Okay. We're going to do like 10 more minutes or so. I'm going to scroll down towards the bottom. So if I missed your stuff that's in the middle, I apologize. I'm trying to get some of these last minute ones here and see what we got. Okay. That's the will they ever issue dividends one. Okay. This is my favorite shirt from Donna Bell. I have this one. I have the exact same shirt, but in, I think it's like orange paisleys. Like same pattern and everything. Same company. Just rather than a blue base, it's an orange base. And I love them. They're good shirts. Paisleys are my favorites. I love how each show I get someone else who's like, that one is my favorite shirt. Because I love them all. I love them all so much. And it just like finds everyone's like unique little flavor in all of them. Liz Clayman's whistle. I got slaughtered on BBig. I'm currently being slaughtered on BBig. I bought it $6.30 and it's at $2 and change right now. But I think BBig is still like 270% short or more. There's something happening there, and I just want them to just release that special stock preferred share that they're going to be issuing and just do it already. Okay. Bone, statistically speaking, people are not born in even distribution. January birthdays are much lower than September birthdays. Yes, and if you are French, everyone is born in May. They're all Geminis because it's a very weird thing. Like if you have a child who's born outside of May, everyone's like, oh, you poor family. And it's because the enrollment for daycare begins when a child's 3 months old. And that is in like August or September every year. I think it's September every year. And so if you're a new mother, your baby can qualify for daycare at 3 months old. And if you have a child in August, it means they can't get enrolled for a whole nother year. So you're stuck, at home raising your kid like a parent, and you can't get that baby into daycare. So everyone shoots for like a May birthday for their child. And that way at 3 months, they can pass that baby on to somebody else. And so you get tons of May babies in France, at least in modern days. And so that's pretty interesting, pretty weird. What is the percentage of babies born in May? May babies of France. Okay. That is just yearly distribution. I want monthly distribution. Monthly distribution. Give me that thing. Give me that. What? Just give me the thing. I learned this from, I was listening to Travel with Rick Steves, and he's interviewing an American woman who had a baby in France, and everyone was shaming her for having a baby like in August or something. More babies born in May in France. Seasonality, here we go. This might give it to us. All right, this is a scientific article from when? What's the date? Give me the date. 2010. So this might be a little different. That's from the 70s. That doesn't help us. I think it's a modern thing. Birth rate falls. France seeing baby bust. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, crap. I have to look it up. I'll look it up and I'll give it to you guys later. Otherwise, I'm just doing internet searches on YouTube and using my last few minutes to do that, and I'll bore the shit out of you. Do I hold regular shares or preferred shares? I hold both. I got both. For assume you're talking about metamaterial? Yeah, I got both on those. Okay. Batman movie premiere is postponed. What? Was it supposed to premiere in March? Postponed. Batman. What? Batman. Postponed. Oh, postponed in Russia. Okay. Won't be launching in Russia on scheduled release date. Warner Bros. Delaying Russian release. Okay. So is there news? That was 1 hour ago. Okay, so it sounds like it's not being released in Russia. All right. Interesting. Huh. All right. Cool. All right. Everyone's talking about the Mullen play. I didn't get into that thing. I learned about it too late, and I don't have enough money to do shit right now. So there you go. I'm still nursing my spending habits from Switzerland. Monkey butts. Hi, buddy. Yes. Are you absolutely bored out of your mind and you're wanting me to end the show? I can tell and look in your face. You're like, I need you to do something with your life. Oh, you want to come here? Come on up. Come on up. You can say hi to everybody. You can say hi to everybody. Oh, I smell my breath. I love smelling my breath. Yes, you do. Yep. Okay. What we got? What we got here at the end? Apollo God, we see Shribank with the possibility of failure. This could, in theory, affect other banks, correct? And cause a domino effect. Citibank is $8 billion liability due to Russia, too. Thoughts? I think there's a lot of banking liability attached to a lot of these groups. At the same time, I'm wondering if they're seeing like, hey, if we seize Russian assets, do we get to keep them? Or do we have to give them to whatever government where these bank accounts are? If Citibank's like, yeah, we can deal with $8 billion in liability in Russia, but we have, $40 billion in oligarch money in our banks. We'll just take that money and apply it to our assets. That might be something that could work. I don't know. Unless the governments take it. And like, yeah, freeze that, seize it, give it to us. Yeah. Sir David P. Tomorrow's MOS again. As long as people keep predicting tomorrow, someone's going to be right. And that person will be a legend for getting it right? Yep. Okay. Is that it, buddy? Is that all we got today? It's 9:02. Time to slap a dog butt. All right, come here one more time. Come on, one more time. One more time. Let's say goodbye to everybody. And we'll see you on Wednesday. I'm not sure what time Wednesday yet. I'll have to figure that out. I was hoping someone suggested I do a show for Ukraine. I don't have time tomorrow to do a Tuesday charity show, so I might try to do one. If anything, this month's Tuesday charity show will be Ukraine related. I was given all sorts of wonderful ideas for a charity show, and then global conflicts happened, and we'll figure out a way to get people fed or something out there. And I don't know yet what that will be yet. So, but yeah, looking forward to it. Let's see what we can do. Let's do some good and help those who can't help themselves. And I'll see you Wednesday. All right. Peace.